Because as you grow old, Dad, they're going to be moving out of the nest. And hey, you hope that they want to stay in touch and connected with you. Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of 5, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. and the man to my left, you're probably right,
Drew Solon, Dad Central.
What's going on?
Oh man, it's hard to believe that Thanksgiving's already here. So time's flown. And we're in the last quarter of this year, and looking back, there's been a lot that's happened. So what's going on with you?
Well, yeah, Thanksgiving in Canada is around the corner for us, and certainly when we're recording this today, the cooler weather has settled in. I had another people I've been chatting over the last few days saying my furnace came on. So it's about that time, but it's also a pretty type of year around here. Like the leaves are changing, so you get the different colors of red, oranges, yellows of leaves. But definitely there is chill in the air. But looking forward to another great conversation, and we're going to be chatting today about fatherhood and regret. I like this. Why do you want to chat about this one today?
Well, I think it's a relevant topic for me. And I also think that in having conversations with fathers, going through the Fatherhood Summit, there's some elements of fathers not willing to take or choosing not to take action that have really sparked some of this for me.
I'm going to kick it off because I've got a definition of regret when in regards to fatherhood. So the definition I have here is, in the context of fatherhood, regret refers to the feelings of sadness or disappointment over missed opportunities, actions not taken, or decisions that may have negatively impacted the relationship with their children. It involves reflecting on past experiences and wishing things had been done differently to foster a stronger bond or more positive outcomes. So how do you think? You like that one?
I think it's a pretty clear definition. There's a lot involved. So maybe we could break it down a little bit. So I I've done a little bit of pre-research on this as well, and so I like that definition. I also want to clarify then there's really two components. There's the emotional component. So you mentioned things like sadness, maybe grief, pain, and then there's the thought process that goes with that. And a word that wasn't mentioned, but it sounds like you're going over it again and again because you're evaluating it. And this idea of rumination. Rumination, I think, can branch over into maybe unhealthy if it's continually taking you to a very negative, a disappointing, hard place that you actually struggle to get out of. So I think many dads may find themselves in there. So there's the two components. There's the actual emotions, the feelings that you go through, and then there's the thought process that is either reinforcing or helping you learn, which would be a more healthy and constructive way to manage those emotions.
This could be an 8-part series, but we're only covering it in a short matter of time today. So let's talk about the impact of regret on fatherhood. Where do you want to start on that subject?
Well, I think I'll start by sharing a story. When I was first introduced the idea of regret, the first time I was introduced to it was I made a decision after high school. I had two paths. I had an offer of a partial scholarship to West Virginia, where I ended up going and playing baseball. Or the other path was, go to university close to home, probably play football there. At the last minute, sort of late July, I chose to go to West Virginia to try playing baseball because I actually said this at the time. I didn't realize how that I'd be talking about it, almost 25 years later, that actually more than 25 years later, that I never wanted to look back and say, oh man, what would have happened if I took the chance by going to West Virginia? So at that stage, I knew that I'd rather take the action and see what came of it, knowing that if it didn't work out, I could always come back home. But if I missed this opportunity, there probably wasn't going to be another opportunity coming up. So even at that stage, that's the decision that I made. And when I was there in West Virginia, I remember my coach, a guy by the name of Brad Warnema. He's actually a really good coach. I really admire him, and there's a lot of things I learned from him. But he used to wear this no fear T-shirt all the time, and so we'd be at practice, and then every now and then I'd take notice of it, and on the back of it was a simple saying, said, "There is nothing more painful than regret." That phrase has stuck with me throughout my whole life because I've thought on it over and over again because it really rings for me true. If there are things that I did that I wish I didn't do, regret. There's pain there. If there are things that I didn't do that I wish that I did, there's also a lot of regret. And so it can be deeply painful if you stay stuck in regret, if you stay trapped by those negative feelings and those unhealthy thought patterns built in and around regret. So as a father, I've had to learn the importance of letting go of mistakes, of choosing to focus on the more positive side of things. And me being naturally hard on myself, regret could easily pull itself up. And what usually happened if I was in regret, I would get stuck, which would pull me away from being who I needed to be and what I needed to be for my family at the time. So um, I think from my experience, it's been an important topic, and I'm actually really grateful that my coach had that shirt. I'm able to share this story now, but from a place of maybe a little bit of learning, and hopefully from this conversation, people will understand how regret is impacting them and their fatherhood. And hopefully, the third thing we really want people to get is how to overcome or how to leverage regret to become the dad you want to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and thanks for sharing some of your journey. Yeah, I believe when we're chatting about this subject, when in regards to fathers, I think we need to look at, you want to learn from your past, you don't want to hold on to your past. And the thing is, no one is perfect. Last I checked, I don't know. Maybe you are, Drew. I don't know. But the whole regret thing. If my thought is, if a father begins to think about regret being a father, think about the child or children that you have brought into this world. You've given the opportunity for someone to live and carry on your legacy. And it's actually interesting. I was chatting with a father on Sunday. I had not seen him for a long time. And I had this conversation. He has a lot of regrets in his journey, to the point where he actually at one time wanted to commit suicide. It was really tough. And a sense of here, if people, I want to be sensitive here, but I want to be real and honest, because these are some of the things that fathers go through. And he said when he had the rope around his neck, it broke. So I said, you know what? You're here because of your son. I said, whenever you think you have regrets about being a father, you look at your son. And the big smile came on his face. So a lot of times, as I share with fathers, don't look at what you don't have, because what you have is enough. And there's always times are going to be challenge in the journey of fatherhood, saying, "Oh, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have done that." You know, where hey, you're never going to get it perfect, but the thing is keeping consistent and resilient each day, because your child or children, and if your partner is there, is counting on you. So regret, don't put it all on yourself. Say, you know what? I have this. I've done this. I'm moving forward. Of course, there's going to be moments where you say no, but I challenge any father when they have regrets being a father, and say, look at that child in front of you. Is that something you regret? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Well, lots involved in what you shared. If I could, I'd like to pick up a specific thread, and we don't have to stay here long. And I've communicated about this before on podcasts, but we have to recognize the emotion that's involved. There could be sadness, there could be fear, there could be disappointment, there could be discouragement. And remember the two components, there's the emotion and then there's the thought. And so, yes, having the ability to look out beyond yourself at the child or the family that's there for you and be able to rise out of the difficulty of those emotions. I think we really need to look at step number one, which is you need to acknowledge the emotion. You need to name that emotion. What's the phrase? You have to name it before you can tame it. And so, if you want to tame or work through your regret, you got to identify the emotion that you're actually feeling. And you have to process those in healthy ways, not unhealthy ways. Unhealthy ways are drugs, alcohol, gaming, sports, all these. Sorry, did I say sports? Like I meant sports gambling.
Yeah, sports gambling, because
I don't mean sports
yeah,
participation.
because that would have eliminated you right off the bat, man. I'm going,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Thank you for the correction. I caught myself, pornography, women, like drinking, all these things, they numb the pain, right? That or they distract you from it. Some people, some men, and I'm not saying this critically. I'm saying it hopefully truthfully with a sense of empathy and compassion. Run from emotions like it's the plague, and I would just encourage you to say, emotions can be quite challenging and scary, but you gotta face them. Otherwise, they're gonna rule you. Les Brown, had a great little soundbite that I listen to these motivational things on YouTube, and he goes, "We are emotional beings, but you must discipline and contain your emotions, or they will destroy you, or they will rule you." And so, disciplining or containing them doesn't mean denying them. It means acknowledging for them for what they are, feeling or processing them so they lose their power over you, and then being able to free your mind to have healthier thoughts about the experience that brought on some of those emotions. So I feel like that's a really important component. And the impact of regret, including those swirling emotions on fatherhood, can be effective in terms of it's a learning growth opportunity, or they can be destructive where they cause you to isolate yourself, they cause you to withdraw, they cause you to run to other things because you don't want to face the truth and hardness of some of those actual emotions. So I think it has a deep impact on fatherhood, and it can be either way, either end of the spectrum, or it can be kind of managed in between to be an effective tool for learning and growth. And there's a part I was reading an article on this because Daniel Pink, he wrote a book about it, and I think it's called "The Power of Regret." And so there's a quote I found in here that was quite interesting. Regret is, and I think I'll read it now. So, regret is not dangerous or abnormal, a deviation from the steady path to happiness. It is healthy and universal, an integral part of being human. Regret is also valuable. It clarifies, it instructs. Done right, it needn't drag us down. It can lift us up. And that's a quote from Daniel Pink in his book, The Power of Regret.
Well, this is good, and you know, again, we could do many parts of this, and maybe we'll come back to this periodically, because I think that it is an emotional thing. And I will make, one of the suggestions that I would say, if any dads or fathers are in this regret phase, get some help. Get some, and even if it's another father, the connection piece. I know one of Drew's big things is the connection piece. Just like life, don't try to do it alone, because if you stay there, you're going to get more and more fixated in it. And I'm not a medical expert. Let me just put it right out there right now. I'm no medical expert, but I feel that getting, a pastor, a counselor, will certainly be helpful, even other dads in regards to this, because it's a very challenging subject. And I am assisting some fathers who are going through this part of their fatherhood journey right now. And it is not easy. And I stay in my lane in regards to some of it, but other parts of it, a lot of times it's just that companionship and just showing the accomplishments that have been achieved, not what has not been achieved. Look what I have, not what I don't have. But there is a certain area of it that I don't get into because I'm not a professional in that type of situation. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there's also something from Daniel Pink that really can help us clarify, or classify regrets that can be powerful for fathers and help you moving forward. So I'm going to share another quote. And so the quote is, 20-year-olds had equal numbers of action and inaction regrets. But as people grew older, inaction regrets began to dominate. By age 50, inaction regrets were twice as common as action regrets. And so, I mean, you could probably understand that. Action regrets are things that you've done that you wish you'd hadn't. Inaction regrets are things that you wish you had would have done but didn't do. And as you get 50, those are twice as common. So what that says to me is that, as we're growing older, we're taking less action, we're taking less risks. Kind of makes sense, right? But here's the thing where I think this, on the flip side, trips fathers up. They watch their kids grow up. They don't invest in their fatherhood. By the time something happens, they get an opportunity to be more engaged with their kids. And at that point, the kids say, I don't want to be involved. I don't want you around. I've got my friends. I've got my this. Where were you when I wish you were there 10 years ago? Why are you all of a sudden wanting to be, up in my business when you couldn't care 5 years ago? That's because dads at critical points in time when they could take some action to improve their fatherhood or improve their relationship with the children or to reconnect or re-engage with them, they don't take action. And so I'm going to ask you, Ed, you can maybe share, if you're open to, how many fathers who have you spoken to who have lamented not taking action to re-engage with their children, to get connected to them sooner, to take whatever they had and put it into their fatherhood journey earlier?
Oh, many, many, many. Yeah, I can't. There's certainly a number of them, and especially one fathers that have limited access to their children, even more so. Because again, those early years are so critical and foundational in the dad child relationship that some of the fathers that I'm assisting, again, now have limited access to their children and they're regretting it. They're really regretting it. So that's why you have to make every moment count when you're with your children. And that's not only when they're young, but even when they get older and they leave you, because that we all probably know fathers that their children have grown and don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, that's sad.
And that's not a place that any dad wants to be. So that's why investing in your children, especially when they're young, is so important because as you grow old, dad, they're going to be moving out of the nest. And hey, you hope that they want to stay in touch and connected with you.
Yeah, well, that's certainly an important message. And I'll share maybe briefly. I was having a conversation with a father recently who did invest a lot in his fatherhood when his kids were younger. But through life circumstances and whatever's gone on, things have happened where his kids are not as connected to him as he would like. The relationships that matter most to him are not quite where he wants them to be. And he knows it, he feels it, he sees it, but he's still not quite able to close that gap. The good thing is he's got a solid foundation to build on because he did what you just talked about. But he still finds himself on the wrong side of the connection equation, we'll say, on the relationship, not being in the kids, not being open to his influence, which he's got a tremendous amount to offer them. but because of the over time gap that is widened, it's not where it needs to be and not where he wants it to be. And so that's, I think, where dads also can find themselves, and they have choices to make. Do they continue on that path, just doing what they've been doing, or do they commit and invest in themselves to find out what they need to do differently to close that gap? Because I'll tell you what, it's not on your kid to close the gap in relationship with you. It's on you as dad to bring the gap, to lessen the gap, and to build a bridge between you and your child. And I'm not saying it to, well, it is a call out. Like, I am calling out dads. I'm calling you out to say, if it really matters to you, then you should do something about it. And I don't mean just, throw more money. What I mean is invest in doing the right things that are going to build the healthiest relationship possible. And so that's my say is, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you want your child to come to you not because you want them to come to you, to engage with you and to have that relationship where, like Ralph and Anya talks about, him and his daughters, 28, 29 years old, they still go for dates. His son is deeply involved with him in terms he's part of his business now and potentially in line to take over some leadership. So those are the types of things you want to see, I would imagine, in your fatherhood. And if you're not there now, I encourage you. We've got resources. We got ways to help you. And that's why we're here to come alongside you and help you close those gaps that you're noticing for yourself.
Great. Do you want me to provide some suggestions on how dads can overcome their regret?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, some quick ones here. First things, well, in no specific order, open communication. Have honest and open conversations with your children to rebuild and strengthen relationships. I spoke with earlier, seek support. Reach out to support groups, friends, or colleagues for guidance and encouragement, or other fathers. Practice self-compassion.
Or get the free fatherhood summit.
Yes.
Or go to dadcentral.ca and get all the resources that we've got.
There you go. And speaking about one of those resources, we were going to talk about that. We're going to put up on the screen here. Go to the 7 Steps Guide to Stop Yelling. So go to the website on Dad Central and check that out. So, and it's interesting you mentioned Ralph, and he was ruminating in my mind when we were having this conversation about, where he is, and he has no regrets. So that's a beautiful place to be in your fatherhood journey, that you don't have any regrets. That is a very special place to be. So as we finish up our conversation today, just to recap, we approached 3 things today in regards to this conversation, in regards to what is regret from a sense of, in regards to fathers, the impact of regret on fatherhood, and then finally, how to overcome regret to become the dad you want to be. And plus, we provided some resources, verbal and website resources on dadcentral.ca. Any final words, Drew?
I think my final words are simply that if you catch yourself wondering, am I doing all that I can do? There's chances are there are some things you can do. And you're probably wondering it because you're sensing and feeling that things aren't exactly where they need to be. And I just want to encourage you. That's a positive thing, because now you can make a choice to move yourself in the direction that you want to go, as opposed to just being caught up in doing the same old thing, the same thing your parents did, the same thing the people around you are doing. And you can actually make decisions based off of your priorities and what matters most to you. So don't run away from it. Take the moment, reflect on it, and then make the choice in terms of the action that's going to bring you what matters to you.
Good way to end off. And again, want to just emphasize, call to action, go to the 7 Steps Guide to Stop Yelling on dadcentral.ca. So as always, want to say thank you for taking the most valuable thing you have in your life, your time, to spend with us. And always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourselves grace. And we'll catch you soon.